Welcome, everyone. Let me introduce Tayaru. She is a data and an AI engineering leader. And I keep the intros really short because I feel like that's the most effective. She specializes in building and scaling high-performing teams that deliver 0 to 1 products and drive innovation across organizations. So with that, Tayaru, the stage is yours. I can hand off the mic to you too. Um, please take it away.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Manan. Hi, everyone, wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I want to make this more like conversational. I have certain set of slides which I'll share and talk about, but I'll leave enough time for us to interact. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Awesome. Yeah, Manan gave my introduction, so I can skip this slide. But if you want to connect with me, you can scan the QR code. That's a LinkedIn code. So my introduction, I have been in the data and analytics world. I'm a strategic visionary empathetic leader with more than 2 decades of experience. Over the years, I led organizations building applications, which are like 0 to 1, mostly in the data and analytics world. I worked across multiple domains. The last few ones are real estate, healthcare, finance, and education. Yeah, so the topic we have is aligning enterprise strategy with data and ML. So every enterprise strategy starts with business goals, specifically they want to optimize costs or increase operational efficiency. So the way the framework would work is, what are the business goals? What are different use cases? Identify collaboratively different use cases of the business goals and strategic OKRs. And then, okay, if it's cost optimization, how do we optimize costs? Define the key performance indicators. So so you want to use the data to tell the end-to-end story. In that scenario, what is your data quality? How are you managing data governance? Where are your data pipelines? And how the data is available to customers and end users to make these predictions. So overall, this framework is to prototype something. In a real world, we will prototype, give a demo, gather the feedback from stakeholders, continue the loop continuously. It would take anywhere between 3 months to a year, depending on like the timelines and asks business had. So the simple example I would give is I worked in certain organizations. I'll give the examples anonymously. So there are certain scenarios where a user would go in every day, click certain screens and do an action by the end of the day. Like the same action repeated 20 times during the day. So the best thing we could do there was using RPA, robotic process automation. Can this piece be automated? And what are the cost savings we have, and what is the ROI we have? So that's how we determined, okay, these are the cost savings, this is the ROI, let's go with the RPA for this particular action, which is very manual today. Yeah, so this is like the framework we used, and from there I'll digress from overall evolution of data and analytics, where I was and which points of time. So the first one is the self-service, like how can you serve your customers better and quicker, and they want to get to their data in minutes and seconds. The time span I would give is 2010 to 2018. These are approximate years as per my experience and my work progression. Don't quote me on those. The next one is predictive analytics, which is more like, okay, what can happen in the future? I'm spending $1 million today as a customer of some company and the spend goes up by 20%. Will I be alerted real time? Or do I have to wait 5 to 6 months to know that my spend went up and I have to go back to the client and ask what is the root cause? The next one is prescriptive analytics, which is like, okay, I have the historical data as a business. Can I run machine learning algorithms on the historical data to tell the customer this is the best course of action? Go do this right now so that you save money in the future. Okay, so the first one is this is like somebody asks me how many customers I have. It will take 2 years for me to answer that simple question. This is where we used to be before. Right now, many places we have the self-service where I would say Gen Zs don't want to wait more than a second or 3 seconds on a single screen. If you keep refreshing, they are out to the next app. So the self-service plays a vital role here in customer retention, customer satisfaction, and the expectations of younger customers. Yeah. So this is more like, okay, I have the raw data. I got the data from the customer. This is how it looks. It's polished and yeah, they are like very nice. And when I finally clean and process the data, I have like a Superman. So this is the world of big data and AI. So the reason we have big data is like we have data everywhere. Every interaction we do is captured as data. So the framework we use right now is we want to serve customers better. We want to use artificial intelligence. The reason we can do that better is we have extremely high powerful computing machines at our hands. A smartphone can do a number of things today, which was not the case. The other one is the volume of data we have at this point. So basically we have like 5 V's which define the fundamentals of data. What is the amount of data we're extracting day in, day out? And the variety of the data, which is like we have multiple sources of data. We have mobile phones, we have desktops, we have um, Alexa, we have Tesla. So from all these devices, we can gather the data. The data can be structured, unstructured, semi-structured. Once we have this variety of data, how do we validate the data is truthful and it is telling us the right story? That is the veracity. And the fourth one is velocity. Um, so I click a button on an ad, how quickly that click of button can go back to Google and tell me, okay, she clicked an ad for MacBook purchase, and they will show me in minutes, okay, different MacBooks and different deals of MacBooks. So the speed at which the data is traveling is very critical in providing the insights to customer. And the last one, but not the least, is the value, which I covered. What is the return on investment? Like we are investing so much time, manpower, and energy to process the data and get to the analytics. But what is the return on investment we are generating? So we have to, like, as leaders, we have to have that equation balanced before making the recommendation on, okay, let's go ahead and do this project or not. So the I covered these pieces, but I would like to give a little overview of predictive analytics. Predictive analytics is more like it uses machine learning on the existing data or analyzes the existing data. You don't have to use machine learning. Look at the data. If you have a spike in the data, tell the customer immediately, yes, there is a change, drastic change in your data. This is why it happened. Go ahead and figure out till you don't have to wait till it blows up on your mind. The next one is, yeah, this is this is how data analysis used to be. We always used to use Excel in the good old days. The next one is like the prescriptive analytics, which is more like you have the data, customer data, which is like from 20 years. You are in the business from past 20 years. That means you have lots and lots of customer data, which has a lot of value. When a customer is doing something, can you run machine learning algorithms in the background? Tell them, okay, you are purchasing this thing, which is like $2,000. You have alternate options, which are like $1,500. So it does run machine learning algorithms in the background and provide recommendations to customers, which are cheaper and better. So I have a patent in the prescriptive analytics world on how to avoid avoidable ER visits. I'll throw the link if you're curious. Yeah, the data world, what you get is lots and lots of data, but as leaders and as people who make the strategic decisions, it's our responsibility to figure out when do I want, what do I want, and what pieces of data I can use. That's all I have. Any questions?
Tayaru, thank you so much. A really nicely pulled together deck also. I'm going to request you to stop sharing your screen so that we can all see each other. And who wants to go with the first question? Go for it, Mike.
Sure. So one of the things that I've seen about prescriptive and predictive is that it relies heavily on trend analysis with you mentioned about clicking on the MacBook and showing ads for different MacBooks on sale. My background is mostly in e-commerce, and while more on the engineering side, I've also had roles which included Google Ads and ad spend. I'm curious how the prescriptive and predictive algorithms are going to be able to deal with, I'll say, unexpected variable changes, right? So now a lot of searches are going through ChatGPT or other AI responses versus a straight Google search. And so what I saw a lot of the predictive and prescriptive utilized for, and of course Google's listening, so my phone just woke up. But the those changes in how much should I spend on ad revenue, or how much ad spend should I have based on my revenue? What impacts do you see happening because of the change in how people are searching in these, variables that maybe weren't there in their prior data?
Yeah, that's a wonderful technical question, Mike. Thanks for asking that. So the way I see this is most of these machine learning models are open sourced. You have a traditional system which is based off of prescriptive and predictive analytics, and I am a technologist as well. I'm an engineer. So if you have a client, I'm going in depth technical here. If if you have a client server model before, you have a client code, you have server code, it's doing something. Right now, you can overlay that with model context protocol, which is open source. The caveat I would have is you have to be very conscious of the industry you are in. If it's e-commerce, you can rely on any open source machine learning model to pull this data and overlay that with the MCP outcomes. And that would add another layer to your existing predictive analytics model. But overall, you are covering the changes in trend of people going into AI and ML models and doing searches. That data gap will be covered. You have to iterate internally because data modeling and analysis, like you have a legacy system, you are overlaying that with a modern system. and you have to figure out what biases this modern system would have, how will you cover them, what are ethical and legal compliances, how would your governance framework or your system company's governance framework would handle it.
Okay.
So if I could chime in on a little bit, what Mike asked, I thought was a different question. That
Yeah.
and so and I hadn't thought about this, but this is kind of real. If I'm using a chatbot like ChatGPT to do my searches, that information is now invisible to somebody like Google who does all of the ad searching. So your example of I looked up something, what was it, a MacBook? If I go to ChatGPT and start exploring MacBook options, that's not visible to the same set of people. It shifts who has access to the information about what you're doing. And by the way, in the chatbot, in the ChatGPT world, in principle, at least, no one's collecting those searches because they are in a very different context. They're not simply searches that I can stick into, an entity graph and say, this person searched for this recently, and that's new data, and I can look at that. It becomes invisible, which is not answered by the how do I extract it from there if I'm OpenAI. OpenAI in principle could extract those quote unquote clicks. They're not supposed to. They say they don't, but they could. Excuse me. And your answer went to that, but it doesn't explain how the overall aggregation of that information by somebody like Google happens.
Yeah, this is, I would say, I kept it high level intentionally, Keith, because I don't want to be like biased with which model we are using. But the bigger concept is most of these analytics with users' consent are tracked. It's all what you're doing.
Yeah. So I guess as I hear your answer, Tayaru, I think I said it correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I think bottom line, you're stating this is new data, and you have to put the new
Yes.
data into your model for your predictive
Yes.
to hold up. Keith, I think you're bringing up a very good point, though, is that data isn't necessarily as accessible as it once was, right? As a Google Ads customer, right? You get a dashboard and you get that information of that, and perhaps maybe now it'll be sprinkled with Gemini if you're still going to Google and getting the Gemini answer. But if you pull up ChatGPT and have that conversation of which MacBook should I get, right? Yeah, I guess maybe at some point somebody's going to have to pay OpenAI for that data in order for those models to stay up. But thank you for the answer.
Just for fun, I'm gonna throw this in. Isn't OpenAI going to Google and running some searches for you? Like, how is that happening?
The links are definitely there, that it's definitely doing some searches, but I don't know.
The connection to you is not there. So, I mean, OpenAI does the search, Google records the search, but it's anonymized in that sense from Google's standpoint. That's I guess the problem. And the
What I
searches are
saw,
much more incremental,
yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
There may be 20 searches that happen in the course of a query. They're not necessarily as easy for Google to interpret as you saying, I'm looking for MacBook Pro, because maybe it's first looking at, something tangentially related to fill out the context.
Understood. Something interesting may not be happening for everyone, but while I was in the Bay Area back a couple of weeks back, my Google searches were like they'd shifted the mode to a chat mode, and I saw there was an option like I could go to the traditional one, but it looked like ChatGPT search. Um,
Oh,
and I'm guessing like they'll probably pull a
that's
switch.
powered by their Gemini.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to watch how they take the power back also.
Yeah, right now, yeah, just to add, right now, all the big players have their own models and they are doing a number of things to entice everyone to use their models. I think we are in the evolution phase right now. to come to like a solid conclusion on who will own the data, who will own the
I just
answer.
want to know when they'll start paying us to use their model. Like, I want that flipped.
I
Yeah,
don't think that's happening.
that's happening. That's
It
happening
is?
in some
No, I don't
scenarios.
think so, Tayaru.
It
They're
is
not
happening.
gonna, well, I don't know.
I
That's
mean,
another
I pay
conversation, maybe.
Prime, and it should be interesting because at the end of the day, that that will be very interesting. Anyway, anyone have the next question? Okay. I was
Well,
curious how. Sorry, go
okay,
ahead.
yeah. I was just gonna, this is more of an observation. You talk about machine learning, you're not really distinguishing the shift that happened between machine learning and semantic models, generative GPT models. And so when you say in 2020, there was a shift from predictive to prescriptive, that shift is not just, a small shift. That shift happened because you went from pattern analysis. What machine learning does well is pattern analysis on a stream of numbers. That will never give you prescriptive, result, because all it can do is say, here's the pattern. You'd have to train it in a very specific way to get some kind of prediction. I mean, for example, you can predict when a machine will fail using machine learning. That's a very specific prediction, but it's not a generic prediction in the way you're describing it. It's not prescriptive. It's prediction. What enabled prescriptive analytics is the fact that you now have a semantic model that can iterate and can reason over words and much more complex symbolic data. And that enables prescriptive, and that's why it's now possible to do prescriptive, quote unquote, prescriptive analytics. And that is a shift. I mean, it's just an observation, but you didn't really, it's not machine learning anymore. It's a different thing. And the data models driving it are different.
That's true, Keith. So my patent is dated 2021. That is on prescriptive analytics, on claims data, which is the most complicated healthcare data. What the algorithm does is it runs the machine learning model in the background, and it tells the customer or the patient, like if you're trying to go to an emergency room, you have these alternate ways before just rushing to emergency room. That will save you lots of money. I can throw the link in there. I agree with whatever you pointed out. The prescriptive analytics is more on streamlined, cleaned, aggregated data, and to figure out, okay, this is exact data I have, this is the value I want to provide my customers using this data. How do I go about it?
Okay. I just had a fun question, like, and I'm not super technical, so and maybe this is the last question of the day since the time is coming to an end too. But given that Gen AI hallucinates, and I know we're able to somewhat control that now, how does that impact our ability to have a Gen AI model or a layer that can run? So I'm thinking very soon, all of these self-serve like Flurry, etc., like it's all going to be like, hey, can you run this analysis for me real time? Can you look at it from this angle? Like even Google Analytics, etc., should have like a updated UX of sorts. I don't know what it'll be like, but I'm thinking it's sort of like behaving like that person that larger organizations have, whose expertise was being enabled to sort of like extract that data, right? So does the hallucination cause problems there, or is there a way to control these models? I don't know. I've heard of the term SLMs, to sort of just focus on what's available and answer questions only related to that. Given the board of experts we have here, Keith, you seem to have pretty informed opinions. Tayaru, you also. What do you guys think?
Well, if you're asking about controlling hallucinations,
In a
my
limited
take on,
context, right? It's on top of data.
Yeah, of course. I mean, hallucinations, first of all, LLMs don't hallucinate. They go in the wrong direction because you've been sloppy in what you've asked them. So they don't hallucinate, they don't make things up, they simply misinterpret because you've been ambiguous. Some of the newer models are better at that because they're
Keith, you're
better.
giving a lightning talk on that, by the way. Sorry for the interruption, but that's the first time I
Okay.
heard that. It's not hallucinating, you're being stupid. I love that.
I mean, you're being ambiguous. You're not being stupid, you're being ambiguous. You're being sloppy or ambiguous. And the way you get around that is engineering the workflow, the flow of questions you're asking so that you are not ambiguous. You resolve the ambiguity
Understood.
before you do the final rendering.
Okay.
I actually
That's
disagree with
very
that a
good to
little
know.
bit, Keith.
Oh, lovely.
Because
I love disagreement.
Oh, good.
Go
We
for
can
it.
have an argument.
yes, there is a part to that you're being ambiguous, but the models are hallucinating also, and they're hallucinating very confidently. And this is due to the reason on because of the data they're trained. It's also because of the reason because a lot of it is black box. So if you had seen what Anthropic did, they're now trying to understand like how does it happen underneath the box, even they're not understanding, right? So there is some limitations that the models themselves have. Like if you ChatGPT had gone back to its previous one, but in the middle, like a month ago or 2 months ago, it was like trying to please you, like, and it will agree with you for everything, and it will make up things. And I just read a article today actually, where it was going the other way around. Like it told some teenager to, like really bad advice, almost at the point of a suicide. So it does hallucinate. There is, like when it goes to the other side, it's giving really, really, really bad advice, and it does it so confidently that it's hard to discern. That's why, yes, you as a consumer needs to be smart. You have to ask smart questions, like you said, Keith, but you also have to verify. So asking any of these GenAI models, hey, what is your citation? And I still wouldn't, like 50% of the time, I wouldn't believe it because I still would click on the citations because I've gone to where I have said, okay, what is the website for this or what is the source for this? And when I go there, it's actually not that. And when I tell it back to the model, and it's so apologetic, all of these models have gotten
Of
so
course.
apologetic. Oh my God. They like keep saying sorry. It gives me a
It's
headache.
incredibly annoying how over the top obsequious they've structured these things. So let me answer that a little bit because I'm very specific about the word hallucinate. If I'm talking to you and you've learned a bunch of stuff, because what you're basically saying is the training data that is what the semantic model knows, and so it's going to respond based on that, and you don't know what that training data is. If I'm talking to you and I ask you a question and you misinterpret the question, in my view, you misinterpret the question, you're not hallucinating. You're simply you're coming up with a different interpretation of the question based on how your brain has learned. That's not a hallucination. It is an error from my standpoint. Do you see this distinction I'm making?
I love this so much. And since I promised that these things will end on time, I'm gonna put a pin there and pause this.